You're listening to the ESO Network, your station for all things geek.
Let's get spooky. This is our station, Boo, where we explore the dark and mysterious corners of the world of horror, and we know that you are dying to listen.
Welcome to the Spooky and Kooky podcast of Earth Station Boo, where we talk all things horror. Introducing our haunted host with the most, we have Lisa.
Hi, guys.
Karen.
What's up, my horrorholics?
I am Shannon, and today we are joined by our friend Bill Mulligan.
Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, not a problem. And we are going to be discussing the master of horror, Mr. Wes Craven.
Hey, horrorholics. It's time for the Ghastly Report. Stay tuned for all the fun, spine-tingling news happening in horror today, from new releases to spooky events and so much more. The Ghastly Report is here. Mwahaha. It is the first episode in the month of May. So, with that being the case, we are going to start a new thing where we tell you all the cool, fun stuff that is coming out in the world of horror in May. So here we go. We'll do our movies first. So Lisa, you got that list. What do we got?
Okay, we start with first, Clown in a Cornfield that comes out on May the 9th. Then we have the Moo Guy, I hope I pronounced that correctly, also comes out on May the 9th. Then we have something called The Ancestral Home that also comes out on the 9th. And then we have Ma that comes out on the 14th. Then, of course, we have one of our favorite things is The Final Destination's Bloodlines comes out on the 16th of May. And then also we have something called The Severed Son on the 16th and A Breed Apart on May 16th. And then towards the end of the month, we have something called Cappy. I pronounced that so badly. Sorry, director. And that comes out on the 23rd. And then on the 30th of May, we have Bring Her Back. That sounds exciting.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. In the world of shows, so TV/streaming, whatever you want to call it, there's a bunch of things that are supposedly coming out. We do have The Eternaut on Netflix that is supposed to come out on May 1st. We have season 2 of Walking Dead, Dead City. You can find that on AMC or AMC Plus, and that comes out on the 4th. We have Fear Street Prom Queen on Netflix coming out on the 23rd. Then there's a bunch of things that are rumored to come out this summer, which means it could come out in May, but it could also come out in August. So I am going to kind of announce some of these little things just because it could come out in May. We have Alien Earth, which is a FX/Hulu series. We have The Devil May Cry Season 2. That's been announced by Netflix. Again, they say this summer. We have It, Welcome to Derry. That will be streaming on Max. We also have Dexter Resurrection. That's going to be a Showtime show that is also rumored to come out this summer. Now, Karen, our book queen, what do we have in the world of literature?
Okay, so the world of literature book verse, we have coming out May 6th, Below the Grand Hotel by Kat Scully, The Manor of Dreams by Christina Lee, The Nightbirds by Christopher Golden, The 13th, The Country of Under Heaven by Frederick S. Darbin, The Devils by Joe Abercrombie. I think that's how you pronounce it, Abercrombie, like Abercrombie and Fitch.
Okay.
Also on the 13th, Something I Keep Upstairs by J.D. Barker. That should be interesting.
I've heard some stuff about that one.
Yeah. May 20th, The Starving Saints by Caitlin Starling. And I would say also May 27th, And the Trees Stare Back by Gigi Griffiths. May 27th, also Death of a Clown by Catherine McCarthy.
Rock on.
And also Stephen King has something coming out.
Ooh.
Never Flinch. Also May 27th.
Okay.
Gotta save the best for last.
And all of our literary lovers, please just always make sure that you go and check out our Facebook group. Karen is amazing about once a week letting you guys know what cool new books are coming out in the realm of horror. So speaking of literary horror, Karen, what other fun, fascinating, extremely intriguing news do we have coming out?
So, Nicholas Sparks, y'all know who Nicholas Sparks is, the author of The Notebook. He is teaming up with M. Night Shyamalan, as they like to say in Adult Swim's Robot Chicken, Shyamalan. They have they have teamed up to write a book that is the inspiration of M. Night Shyamalan's next project called Remain, starring Jake Gyllenhaal. Apparently, this is a supernatural love story, but we'll see. We'll see. I do love me some Jake Gyllenhaal, though.
I'm not mad at it, at him. And M. Night, sometimes
it's a hit or miss. It's a hit or miss.
Sometimes he's great. Sometimes he is definitely not. So I won't lie, I'm not a fan of Sparks. I know, like, all the romance girlies out there are going, no, we love Sparks. No, I'm good. I don't enjoy his things. But Lisa, what do you have out for news?
Well, actually, I've just found out that A24, which is one of my favorite filming companies, has the series for Crystal Lake finally has their first script. So I'm kind of excited about that.
That is exciting. That is exciting.
I'm wondering what they're going to do with it, actually, because I love most of their stuff. So,
yeah, their Instagram picture kind of announcing it said machetes for everyone. So,
woo! I want a machete. I need a machete.
For me, the final piece of Ghastly Report horror news is Blumhouse has teamed up with Meta, and they are doing a horrorverse type fun thing to go with the VR headset or the Meta Horizon mobile app for fun online games, allowing the players to dive into their favorite realms of the Blumhouse and Universal horror films worlds. And the game is supposedly releasing later this month.
Ooh, as long as we don't have that creepy little girl from Evil, we'll be good.
From what I'm understanding about everything that I've read, you basically get to pick which little universe you want to play in, and you go to town. So you want to go and play with Megan? Have at it. You want to go play with Frankenstein? Go have fun. Is the way that I understood all the articles that I've read on it.
That sounds fun.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting. So, Horrorholics, I hope you guys are excited for the month of May. Looks like it's got a good lineup. Now, go check out our friends on the ESO network and catch us on our episode where we get to talk about the one, the only, Mr. Wes Craven. Hey Horrorholics, it's Shannon. Earth Station Boo has just launched its brand new merch store. It's time to get your hands on some killer gear. From our fun logo shirts, cozy hoodies, Let's Get Spooky stickers, and Horrorholics Anonymous totes, there's something for every one of our lovely little ghouls. We offer our spooky designs on many different types of products to fit your desires. But if you happen to see a missed opportunity, just let us know. And unlike most of Stephen King's adaptations, you know what I'm talking about, you won't be disappointed with the quality of the products. Head over to our link tree in our bio, grab your merch, show off your favorite horror podcast, and most of all, let's get spooky.
Drew Leiter here. Wish you could keep up on DC Comics but don't have the time or the money? Not a problem. Join Cletus Jacobs and I as we bring you recaps and commentary on DC Comics, television, movies, and more, whether they are good or not. The Earth Station DCU podcast comes out weekly and is part of the ESO Network.
So, Wes Craven, a man who came from the Midwest, whose father died super early on in his life. He was raised by a mother who was devout in the Fundamentalist Baptist Church. He grew up on only Disney movies because no other movies were allowed. So he didn't actually get to see cinema until he was a senior in college. He became a humanities professor. All of this before he directed or even attempted to get into the film industry. He's known for being extremely funny to his friends, yet this is a man who got ostracized because of the type of horror movies that he made and is now known as the master of horror. So let's go ahead, dive in, and start with some initial thoughts. Bill, go ahead and give you the first go.
Oh, thank you. I mean, when you talk about the Mount Rushmore of horror directors, Wes Craven's got to be in the mix. I mean, Romero, Carpenter, Wes Craven, who else? Toby Hooper, maybe? He's definitely got to be. How many people can say that they were responsible for two monster franchises in the horror genre?
That's true.
I don't know if there are any. That's something to say. And he also made a lot of films, more than some of the folks that we worship. Not all of them are winners, but the ones that were definitely off, there's usually a good reason for it.
Mm-hmm.
And he seemed like a really good guy. And I don't think he was terribly old when he passed away. It seemed like
he was in his 70s and he died from brain cancer.
Oh, what a shame.
Yeah, what a shame.
But thank you very much for having me on, because he is one of my favorites.
Hey, more than welcome. Lisa, what are your initial thoughts?
Oh, wow. See, I've been watching his films since they came to the movie theaters. My dad would always take me to every one that came out. I would definitely say he definitely influenced me in my liking of horror, other than the classics, of course. I like how genius he is and how diverse in different cultures and different mythos, and how he just kind of made it all work.
Mm-hmm.
And you couldn't stop watching it. So, yeah. I'm a big fan.
Yeah. I mean, Wes Craven is a very, very diverse director. I mean, yeah, he created the Scream franchise and Nightmare on Elm Street franchise, but I enjoy most of his work. I didn't know he did Vampire in Brooklyn with Eddie Murphy.
Yeah.
And there was like this one musical that he did that's kind of random. I was like, he did a musical?
Are you talking about the Meryl Streep one?
Yeah, Music of the Heart.
Yeah, Music of the Heart.
I was like, I thought
which she got an Academy nomination for.
Yeah, this is the only films he got 2 Academy nominations for.
Yeah, so I was like, wow. Of course, his other horrors are kind of like hit or miss. Because I remember watching one that I was like, Wes Craven, what were you thinking? But
I think I may know the one you're talking about.
There's several that kind of like, what were you thinking about? So yeah, he is. I would say he's like one of the founding fathers of modern day horror, at least from the 70s or early 80s all the way down.
Yeah,
and he just doesn't like keep himself niche too, because he like goes and does other things that you're like, like the musical. You're like,
yeah,
what's up, dude?
Mm-hmm. Or the snuff films that he did.
You're like, wow, okay. Because he goes from like snuff film to slasher to musical.
Yeah.
So I like his work. I like his style.
Yeah, Wes Craven, he's a storyteller. He is just a genius with that. And even his films that are not so great, you can tell there was a good story behind it. And it was still shot well. It was still it was still done well. Especially when you know that, unfortunately, he had to work with the Weinsteins and how they like to control the production of a film, even though they don't know anything when it comes to production. And so when you see even his worst stuff that they had their hands way too much into, and it can still be something that it's at least watchable, you know that if he had had his way, it would have been such a much better film.
Even some of the ones that fail, like Deadly Friend, you can, when you watch that film and you're like, there's something off about this, you can see parts that were forced in there by the studio that just stand out and just seem so out of place. And then something like Vampire in Brooklyn, which has its defenders. When you read about it, you see he was in a weird position there. They're trying to make a horror comedy, and it's his with a big name actor, one of the biggest names there is, but the big name actor did not want to do anything funny. He wanted to be a serious vampire, and things were just didn't come together right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And that's always, I think, an issue with film, is that you do have so many creative minds at work. And so there is always that precarious balance that you need to find on the set. But since we're starting to like name all sorts of films that we love of his, let's go ahead. Everybody, you can pick up to 2 because he's got a very long list. Mm-hmm. We don't have all night. So
I mean,
what's your favorite Wes Craven film? You can pick up to 2, and we'll start with Karen.
I enjoyed People Under the Stairs.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah,
because that was like the first movie that I saw African American not die, the hero not die.
Yeah,
and he was a kid, so I was like, "Yay!" As a kid, I could survive this too. Yay! And he touches up a lot on like the rich versus the poor, the whole possible incest between family members and whatnot. Also, I would have to say it's like my tried and true, because I'll watch it if it's on TV. Nightmare on Elm Street.
Mm-hmm.
If it comes on, I'll stop and sit down and watch.
I was expecting you to say that one.
Yeah, me too.
And I mean the story behind that character alone and how it was created is pretty cool. That he wrote this character from scratch, from things that he read and heard about and what he experienced as a kid. So, I mean, I feel like that's a kind of a cool thing. Lisa, how about you?
Okay. My first favorite out of all of them has to be The Serpent and the Rainbow. I really liked that movie. That was a good film. It's also one of the cursed films, but it's really good. I just like the way that he got in there and studied the culture and everything. And it kind of freaked me out a little bit too, because I was living in Miami at the time.
Oh,
there's a very big Jamaican and
Haitian community.
Haitian community. And then I know not many people like it, but I actually like Deadly Friend. I saw it in the movie theater. I mean, there's just something about it that I liked. I mean, it had all the elements of the smart kid who everybody picked on. He was in love with the girl, and then he was a little bit mad, so he turned her into his robot thing. And then, of course, the lesson learned, all Hades breaks loose, but still, it was just kind of cool. I always liked it. And for the time, the effects were pretty damn good. I'm a big practical effects person, so I really kind of enjoyed it for that.
Yeah. Bill, what are your 2?
First one would be The Hills Have Eyes.
Yeah.
I love survival horror. Had Michael Berryman, one of my favorites. It was one of the themes that Craven seems to go to a lot: the family in peril, the invasion of the home, the fact that you're not safe anywhere. Cool. Here we had 2 families: mutant family, normal family. Just really, really well done. Which makes you wonder what the hell happened to Hills Have Eyes 2, which is just one of the worst ever.
Oh, I know. It's horrible.
And if I didn't know he directed it, I'd be like, who was it who ruined this perfectly good Wes Craven movie? But I don't know. I don't know what the story was. Maybe they ran out of money. And the other one is one that's kind of hard to defend, but I'm going to do it anyway. Last House on the Left. Now, I don't like torture porn. Rape revenge films are not on my top 10 list. This movie has everything I don't really like, but it is so well made. It's so intelligent and so visceral. This was one of the first horror films I saw that really just modern films that scared me. And I was like, well, okay, I guess I've graduated from Universal now. This is not The Mummy or Frankenstein's monster. This is real horror. This is a Vietnam film, even though it doesn't mention Vietnam. It's so well done. And there's some shots that are absolutely beautiful. When the young woman dies in the pond, it's gorgeous. His films are intelligent. And you can see when you find out later, oh, this is actually his take on Ingmar Bergman's The Virgin Spring. You're like, yeah, I could see that. It almost ruined his career before it even started.
Yeah, his first two films actually, people would keep their children away from him.
Wow.
People would find out, oh, you're the one who made that movie, and they would get up and leave a dinner so they wouldn't have to be associated with him. Which I'm sitting here going, yeah, but then, a few years later, you really wish you would have stuck around and been his friend when he was making money. But
right.
And I don't really get it, because it's not that he's celebrating evil and deviancy. His villains are villainous. We are happy to see them pay, get the when the family gets the revenge. But at the same time, it does also take away that revenge is cool. Yay, rah, rah, rah. When the film's over, even though the bad guys have gotten everything that they had coming to them, you feel dirty for having rooted for it. You feel like, it's a cool message. I think it's a very moral message. And yet, yes, people thought that he was pretty much Satan incarnate for having made it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, in preparation for this podcast episode, I binged I want to say 20 something plus interviews with Wes or about Wes. And one thing he said consistently was that people instantly thought he was going to be some deranged, crazy man. And then when they go and they actually get to meet him and talk to him, they're like, oh, you're just this really wholesome, funny dude, super chill. Neve Campbell even talked about, she's like, yeah, there was one day we were shooting and overnight the sun was coming up and Wes was sitting at this one little bench and I sat down with him and we watched the sunrise together and it was just super zen and chill. And it's okay, this is the man who created some of the best horror films of the modern age. What?
Sometimes you have to have that Zen person, man. I create some really visceral stuff, but namaste.
And what's actually kind of interesting, there was another interview that I saw. It was with Dr. Ruth, and it was Wes Craven and Clive Barker. They were talking about she's like, you make these really horrific things. She's like, but yet you guys seem so chill and down to earth. And they're like, yeah, we probably get out and purge a lot of that evil, corruption, whatever that people think we have in us in our movies. So in our regular day-to-day life, we don't have that. We don't have any of that. We're free. We're able to be rid of it.
And someone who is really into horrible things and is a horrible person, I feel like when they write about it, that would come through. And it wouldn't be an enjoyment to read it. Craven always came across as very intelligent and literate. And boy, now you say that, I would have loved to have seen him do a I'm sorry, I'm drawing up Clive Barker, do a Clive Barker story. It seems like that was a match made in heaven.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, that would have been,
That
So
would've
my
been
two
great.
favorite movies.
Yes.
As we get back onto track and answer the question that was asked, I would say Scream is the first one. And simply because it proved how funny he is. And even though he didn't write the original Scream film, it was written by somebody else, he still is the storyteller. He still took what they wrote and put it on the screen. And I think he did a fantastic job.
Oh, absolutely.
Lining everything up and setting things up. His hand in the casting of different people and making it happen. And the support he gave to the cast. I mean, Neve Campbell, Courtney Cox, Dave Arquette, a bunch of them were like, no, he was amazing to work with. This is why we love Wes. And the fact that he made such an iconic film for this new age of horror and is so beloved by the cast of that, to me just makes it even more enjoyable to watch each and every time. Even Jamie Kennedy said, he's like, if he wants me back, I will do it. I'm an Ecuadorian cousin, down. I'll make it happen. So I just think that's amazing. And it's a movie that you can easily watch over and over and over and over again. And it's just pure enjoyment, especially when you think of how they respond to certain things earlier on in the film, now that you know who the killers are. And it's oh, interesting. Oh, okay. That's okay. So they were telling on themselves there, but now that we know. And then my second film is Cursed, the Christina Ricci, Joshua.
The werewolf movie.
The werewolf movie. Yeah.
Yeah, the werewolf movie. I actually really enjoyed that. You can tell that the studio had its hands on it, but I think the story was really good. I really would have loved to seen like a Wes Craven cut of it.
Yeah.
Without the studio involvement. Because honestly, I think that was a pretty good movie. And I think it could have revived a little bit of the werewolf, movie genre if he had been able to do it the way he wanted to. Because I think it was really done well. There's so many aspects of that film that I absolutely loved.
Yeah.
But with that, we love a lot of what he has to do. And for me personally, it's the storytelling. Wes knows how to tell a story. And he knows how to tell a story through the way he shoots things, the way he sets things up. He talked about, in an interview, he talked about, my thought was when you're looking at a scene, come at it from a 5-year-old's viewpoint. So that way you can see it all. It's all right there. And I was like, oh, that's a really neat take on like how to tell a story and how to like showcase it all. But I think that's what makes it obvious that it's a Wes Craven film, is that there's always a great story. Even if it's not edited well, there's still a great story to it. Like, I love the movie Red Eye. It's a Wes Craven film. Why? Because it's got a good story. So to me, that's what makes it obvious that it's a Wes Craven film. For you guys, what makes it obvious that it's a Wes Craven film? Lisa, do you want to start?
Yeah, I can start. I just like, he's great. Like you said, good at telling stories. It doesn't matter what story he's telling, he's good at it. I mean, Shocker was kind of a flop, but the way he told it, you kept on watching it. I think that and his character development is actually really good. So you like and hate characters. You want certain characters to win and certain characters. You just kind of get involved in the story yourself. And I think that's something that is rare nowadays. You don't see that in horror as much. And he just knew how to suck you in, and you're like, yeah.
Yep.
And then you're like, is it already over? So you go and watch it again.
Right.
Also, he puts a lot of little odes to people in his movies. If you really look, you'll see like little things here and there. And I think that's pretty cool.
He's an efficient director. He's a director who doesn't necessarily call attention to himself. Sometimes that ends up being someone who they don't get the credit they deserve because nobody really can say, "Oh, that's a Ron Howard film." I couldn't tell something was done by Ron Howard if I watched 10 minutes of it. With Craven, yeah, the storytelling's good, the character development is good, which is something that is so easily lost these days. And something like Scream, fantastic job, big cast, but all the scenes with them have a purpose. They're not just filling time. They're letting you know about the characters, dropping little hints that, like you say, it bears rewatching because now you know the ending. Sometimes that ruins a mystery, but not his, because it's the cleverness of the hints that are dropped, the red herrings that are scattered about.
Yeah.
I just like his characters.
I mean, you still sit there and you kind of cheer on, Skeet and Matthew's characters. You're like, no, they're good teenage boys. They're not the bad guy. Like, even after you know that they are, you're just like, but they can't be. I like them. Like, you truly end up liking the characters, even if they are the bad guy.
And that formula is so successful. How many Scream movies did we end up with?
Well, with him, 4.
Yeah.
And then
I think
I know he was working on 5 and 6 when unfortunately it was taken from us. So I
think there's 8.
There's 8 of them.
I think.
Wow.
He directed the first 4.
Yeah.
And then Scream 5.
I think he has writing credits on 5 and 6.
Yeah.
But yeah.
You can't argue with success like that.
No.
Yeah.
Karen, what about you? What makes it an obvious Wes Craven film for you?
Well, usually I don't pay attention to formula, so I don't know if it's like, Wes Craven, John Carpenter, Ron Howard film until I get immersed into it. Because, at a young age, I didn't know he wrote like one movie I did not know he directed, Swamp Thing. Did not know he directed it until I did research. But once I get a good 10, 15 minutes in, it's his use of practical effects.
Yeah.
You very rarely see any type of CG in his stories. Also, the pacing of his stories. He doesn't rush it or he doesn't slow it down. It's that steady pace that you want to, keep up with. Because if you go too fast, you're like, I can't run. You go too slow, it's like, why? His character development and the way he keeps you guessing on who's the bad guy and who's the hero. And sometimes before you're finished, you're like, damn, I was wrong all along. It was that person.
Yeah.
That's the bad guy. Or it's that person that was the good guy. I forget what movie I was watching that did that to me. Yeah, it was actually the original Scream because I was like, it has to be Neve Campbell's a character. She has to have somebody helping her do all this to make herself a center for attention. Because, a lot of things can't happen to one character in a movie. I mean, unless you're Harry Potter. So she had to have an accomplice to, like, beat her up and all that jazz and kill all her friends. Because, I don't know. Some people are like, crazy like that, especially in part 4 or cousin or something.
Yeah.
Wanted the attention. I was like, yep.
That is one of the cool things. They could have done it like Clue, and virtually every character who doesn't die could have been the bad guy.
Oh, yeah. That actually would have been kind of cool.
Yeah.
It would.
I think something else that kind of makes it obvious that it is a Wes Craven film is how much is based on reality.
Yeah.
His movie about the zombies, like he actually went into the folklore of zombies in Haitian culture so that way he could properly showcase it. He even talked about the corruption that was happening within the government using this zombie practice. And so I think that's really cool that he takes that time to do his research so that way when he does put it in the film, there's validity to it. There's substance to it. Even like I had mentioned earlier about Freddy Krueger, there actually was a story, or actually a few stories out in California of young Vietnamese men who passed away from night terrors. That they died in their sleep and they just said, something's coming for me. I can't fall asleep. If I fall asleep, I will die. And it happened, I think, to like 5 or 6 individuals. And he read that story and he was like, that's insane. That is so crazy. And then the physical look of Freddy came from a man who was staring into his bedroom window. And he told his brother, and his brother ran out and, went after the guy. But, he was dressed like how Krueger is dressed. So, yeah. And then what was the other thing? Oh, the claws. He's like, it needed to be primal fear. He's like, before knives, before guns, before any of this other stuff, humans were afraid of the claws from wild animals. He goes, make claws. What better place to put it than on the hand? And so it drives that like initial primal thing. And I was like, that's really cool that he took the time to set things up and develop it in a way that can be just, I don't know, it just works. I just think that's amazing. And I know, again, because I binged all these interviews, he did talk about, he's like, I read a lot of books. And when you read books, you learn how to write a story. And he goes, and when you know how to write a story, you can really put one together. I think that's another like thing that makes it an obvious Wes Craven film.
I think all directors should be like reading like 10, 15 books in a month.
Right?
But they don't have enough time because they're like taking apart.
They're just wanting to make stuff.
Yeah.
But as we've said, he definitely deserves his face on the Mount Rushmore of horror. What would you guys say is his greatest impact on the horror genre as a whole?
I'll give you a negative one, and it's not his fault, but the success of the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise, the success of the Scream franchise, much like the success of the MCU, everyone thinks, I want a piece of that. So they try to do it. And how many times have we seen horror movies that are clearly meant to launch a continuing thing? They have ambiguous endings that call for a sequel that we never see. When they made Nightmare on Elm Street, they weren't planning Nightmare on Elm Street 2, 3, 4, and 5 down the line. They were just happy to have made a movie. They told a story. They were probably going to move on to the next film and never think of it again. And it turned out to be such a hit that, no, we got a whole bunch of others. But now, and Scream even more so, Scream feels like a movie that's done when it's over. Like there's nowhere to go. The killers are dead. How do we go? Well, they were clever enough to figure out a way. But now everyone's trying to make their Scream. They even admitted, it's in the, in the same vein as Scream. Like, God, just guys, just tell us a good movie, and we'll tell you if it needs a sequel. We'll tell you if we need to see more of it.
Yeah.
No, I have to agree with that.
I can
I
agree
have
with
to agree with that.
Okay.
But again, not his fault. He was
Yeah.
successful. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
I mean, success breeds greed. So,
This is true.
I mean, for me, it's the storytelling because, like you said, he read a lot. So, in order to create a great story, you have to read a lot. And you also have to have that, perspective of, I wouldn't say of a child, but even though he said a 5-year-old, but I would just say having a fresh new perspective of what the scene would look like through a camera lens instead of a child, because children shouldn't be like watching horror movie, unlike my mom who let me watch horror movies.
My dad.
But it's just storytelling, because you don't get that good of a storytelling in many of the not authors, but many of the directors today. There are some who have been influenced by him that do tell a good story. I mean, like the first Saw movie, that was actually a great storytelling.
Yeah.
And then after that, you're like, Hostel. That was great storytelling. Makes me afraid of going into a hostel. I mean, I don't mind traveling, but I'm going to be in a hotel. So that's for me, his impact in the horror genre is his storytelling. It's kind of hard to mimic good storytelling when you have someone who perfected it, unless you're like doing it at the beginning of your career.
Yeah. Yeah. Lisa, how about you?
Well, he kept practical effects going for a long time, because we could have lost them a long time ago.
Yeah.
As you guys know, we need more real fake blood. But no, I think that was definitely kept a lot of people in the business working, because he liked the whole theatrical, use your imagination instead of just like, oh, this is what it really looks like. So yeah, I definitely think he kept the practical effects going for longer than it could have gone.
It could go on forever for all I care.
Yeah, it's me too.
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah.
Same.
But he did help it along with some of my friends who are in the industry and everything. If it wasn't for him, they probably wouldn't be where they are.
Yeah. I think one of his greatest impacts, beyond obviously creating 2 massive franchises from basically nothing, Krueger, he wrote himself over the course of 2 days. And then Scream, he got that script, I think 2 or 3 times. And he's like, no, I'm good. And finally he's like, you know what? Yeah, let's go ahead and do it. And I think his raw talent and his eye really showed that you can make something that is more than just torture porn, and more than just jump scares, and more than just low-hanging fruit when it comes to horror. He made sure that there was always substance. I think there's a lot of individuals who were inspired by that, who were inspired by there being so much to it that you can continue to build on it. Like, yeah, Scream could have died forever ago, but the fact that people are still wanting to build on it just shows how much inspiration all he did was direct it. Like, he didn't do anything with the writing. He just helped direct it. But the way that he even did Krueger, where people want to create memorable characters like Freddy that aren't hiding behind a mask. It's kind of neat. I think it's interesting how he's ignited so many individuals. And even a lot of the actors, actresses, and even fellow directors have said, if it wasn't for Wes, I wouldn't have. And I think that's his biggest impact, is that he has inspired others to move forward.
Something occurred to me. In a sense, he may have influenced himself. 2 years before Scream, which a lot of people see as the first self-referential horror film, a horror film that's aware that there are horror films.
Mm-hmm.
We got Wes Craven's New Nightmare, which is a horror film about making a horror film.
Mm-hmm.
It's so meta. And I think those two together really kind of introduce the idea, and it can be done poorly, and it has been, and it can become a cliche, but I do like it when characters in a horror movie react the way I would being a fan of horror movies. Nothing drives me crazier than when they find a dead body, 2 holes in the neck, drained of blood, and they're like, what could have caused this? And you're like, listen, even if you don't believe in vampires, you're going to say, boy, this looks just like something from a vampire movie. Am I crazy or what? You bring that up.
Yeah.
But no, these people live in a world where those things don't exist, I guess, because it never occurs to them.
Yeah. I mean, the fact that he never actually wanted to be a horror director, he actually wanted to do comedy. And so it's one of these deals of, no, you're good at it. But he did bring comedy to horror, even if it isn't like quite obvious, comedic horror movie like Shaun of the Dead. I mean, Scream still was a funny movie.
Oh, yeah.
You laugh way too many times for it to be a horror film.
And all the characters have a sense of humor. Some of them are funnier than others, but they all have those quirks that make them, that give them a chance to give a good line or have a funny scene. Yeah.
And even his first 2 films, which are considered to be extremely like grotesque and horror, had funny moment. Like Homeboy knew how to do it, but he also understood that comedy and horror are different sides of the same coin. Like how you can get comedy is how you get horror. And so I think that's something that's pretty amazing about him.
Hills Have Eyes could have been a good franchise, but the second one kind of went.
Yeah.
So he would have had three major franchises.
That's right.
Honestly, I think if he could have made films the way he wanted to make films, he could have had multiple franchises.
Oh, Shocker should have been a franchise.
I really honestly do think if he had full creative control, he would have had multiple franchises.
Exactly.
So the final question, because I kind of mentioned this earlier, he was a humanities professor. He taught Greek mythology. He taught, the social aspects of things. He was this professor. How do we think that previous career really impacted the way that he directed and told a story in film?
I'll throw something out there because I sort of mentioned it earlier. His take on revenge and vengeance, and maybe this also comes from growing up in a very religious household.
Yeah,
vengeance is mine, saith the Lord. Last house on the left. Like I said, the revenge at the end leaves us feeling worse than before. Deadly Friend. He brings this girl back to life, but then she goes out to get vengeance on the people who harmed her, and everything goes to hell. And Shocker, the reason he's a monster is because he received the death penalty, state sanctioned vengeance. I think he shows that this might be a dead end. That as good as it feels, and we, the viewer, are rooting for it. I mean, that's what we want. We love movies where bad things happen to someone and a bunch of awful people are laughing at it. And then at the end, Carrie destroys everything, and who's laughing now?
Yeah.
But
are we really rooting for the bad guys or the good guys?
well, are the good guys bad guys when they're doing the same thing as the bad guys? Or is it that violence, as good as it feels to do violence against those who are violent, in the end, doesn't it just bring us to a degree down to their level?
Eye for an eye makes us both blind.
Yeah.
That's true.
That's true.
Then again, some people really deserve a good smack in the head. Don't get me wrong, but
yes, very, very, very much so.
Yeah.
that's not my better angel talking. So at least he makes you think about it, like a real professor does.
Yeah.
I mean, he is a humanities professor.
Yeah.
I think his time as a humanities professor does help him tell a better story because you get into the mindset of all your characters and also of the scene that you're trying to direct. I mean, some people do it, really well without having a humanities degree.
Yeah.
But for him, he has he adds a simple twist and yet a complex twist to what he's doing.
Yeah.
Because not all things can be simple, and not all things can be complex, and not all things can be complex, and yet all things be simple. But he has that way of making it to where it makes sense, be it if it's simple or complex. If you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, look at the serpent in the rainbow.
Yeah.
I agree with Karen on that, and I think it definitely it gave him more of a perspective into the human psyche and the social issues that everybody has. So he can actually take you into that so you can feel what these people and characters are going through, and it makes you more aware and maybe a better person.
people
Yeah.
under the stairs.
Yeah. I think something about being not just a humanities professor, but a professor as a whole. He was an educator.
Mm-hmm.
Through his films, he educated. Through interacting with the cast, he educated. I mean, Courtney Cox even said he was always there cheering us on. She's like, so when David and I started dating, and after we've been together a while, he was like, hey, go for it. Like, you guys can do this. So he was always that comforting support in the growth of an individual, even through the films. Like, constantly you're learning something when you watch one of his films, even in Scream, which is very comedic, but you learn like the rules of a horror film.
That's right.
Like, it was still educational. You still learned something. And even if it was, a history of horror, you learned something, and it made you feel smarter when you left it.
Yes. Hey,
Yeah.
can I add something? It just occurred to me. The one thing that I love about Wes Craven films, you asked, what is the thing that tells you it's a Wes Craven film? The victims fight back. They don't go out like sheep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whether we're talking
Yeah.
about the normal family in Hills Have Eyes too.
Everyone,
and
everyone.
the kids fighting against Freddy, and hell, Ghostface gets his ass kicked consistently through the film. He
Yeah.
usually ends up killing the person he's chasing, but he gets a lot of lamps thrown at his head and tripped up. And he comes close to being taken out by many of the victims in there. They fight back. They don't just cower and scream.
Like,
I like
even
that.
Drew's character,
Yeah.
which did cower a little bit, but I mean, what teenage girl wouldn't have cowered in a situation like that? Like, it
Well,
was
I would.
realistic. But the fact that she was willing to kick him in the nuts
Yeah.
to try to get him off of her so she could get away, like, she still fought, even if she was afraid,
Right.
and even though she was cowering in moments.
They want to live.
Yeah, she had that desire to live. And I think
which makes their death even more horrible, that, as opposed to just a Friday the 13th movie where I don't care about these people and they basically just stand there, oh no, and get a machete in the face. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
You didn't really want it much,
And then you have that one team that just doesn't give a damn and is going to fight you no matter what.
Yeah.
So when my friend takes off her bites off her nails, you're like, oh shit, that's
yeah.
All right. So time is running out for us. So let's go ahead and do a quick 1 minute each final thoughts on Wes Craven. Bill, we'll go ahead and give you the floor first.
I mean, he's great. You should watch his films. It's a mixed bag. You're going to see some highs and lows, but it's sometimes you can learn a lot from the failures as well. And I suspect, like with Vampire in Brooklyn, over time, their charms may reveal themselves, and distance sometimes makes these things look good. The ones that were good at the beginning are still good now.
Yeah. Lisa?
Yeah, definitely watch Wes Craven films. You can't really go wrong, even with the good and the bad. You always learn something, and they're great. They're going to stay in film history forever.
Yeah. Karen?
If that man was still alive today, man, we probably got a lot more horror comedy, but more horror ideas from him and practical effects. Yeah.
Oh yeah. And I agree with all of you guys. He's definitely one of the many masters of horror, and I think we did miss out on some really great stuff from him, be it with his untimely death, be it with the studios having their heads so far up their asses that they can't see the light of day. But I think his films are amazing, and I think they're wonderful, even the ones that are considered crappy or cursed or just not that great. I think there's something beautiful about each and every single one of them. He had an eye for telling a story, and it always looked good. It always looked good when he did. And so he is missed. But y'all, we're going to be doing more episodes. We were talking about this before we got started. I'm like, this is going to be like the first of many like deep dives that we're going to do into Wes Craven. But let us know in the comment section hit us up in our email, whatever. We want to know what you love about Wes Craven and what you want to hear us talk about when it comes to him, because he's a cool dude. He's got quite a bit of history when it comes to movies, and we would love to, really dive in and talk more about him. But you can tell us on our social media. We got Instagram, we've got TikTok, we've got X, formerly known as Twitter. We have Threads, and we have our Facebook group. And our Facebook group is super fun. You guys should be in there joining us. Like, we just posted some really cool stuff in there. You need to go check it out. You can also subscribe, rate us wherever you listen to podcasts, like Apple, Google, Spotify. And we are on YouTube.
Leave comments.
Yeah, leave comments.
Love comments.
Talk to us. We respond back, I promise. But where can they find y'all so that way we can continue that conversation even on your own pages, y'all? Bill, you want to hit us up first?
Sure. I'm very active on Facebook. Hey, buy my book, Raum. Raum. Say it once, say it twice. Don't say it 3 times, because I don't want to be responsible for what's going to happen. And if you go on Indiegogo, look up Emotional Support Demon. It's a short film that we're going to be shooting in October. We're raising funds for it now. It's got a great cast. I wrote the script, and I'm so happy at the team that Mark Lucas has put together. It's going to be great. It's probably going to be one of the best things I've ever been involved with.
Rock on, rock on. Lisa, where can they find you?
You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and that's pretty much it right now.
Rock on. Karen?
Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Threads, X, formerly known as Twitter, and Reddit.
Rock on. And I'm Shannon. You can find me on all the things at Spilled Tea Wine, Medium Mind. But before we go, we want to give a massive thank you to Bill for joining us today.
No, thank you for having me. It was so much fun. You guys are great.
Oh, thanks. We love having you on. We also want to thank you, the listener. You, without you, we wouldn't have this. And so we really do want to say thank you very, very, very much for listening to this podcast. We really enjoy doing it, and we know that you guys do too. And so thank you, thank you, thank you. We really do appreciate you and your support. So stay spooky, our lovely little ghouls. And this has been the Spooky and Kooky podcast of Earth Station Boo.
This has been a broadcast of the ESO Network. Be part of the crew and help support our shows by donating to our ESO Patreon or by shopping at the TeePublic store, which can all be found at www.esonetwork.com. The ESO Network, your station for all things geek.